Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Heal from the Affair webinar titled, Why Time Won't Heal You and What Will. My name is Vicki Falcone, and I'm a conscious relationship coach, speaker, and author. I'll be your guide for this evening in this healing journey that you're going to take tonight. A little bit more about me later, but let's talk about you and what you're experiencing right now. Would you agree that nothing can really prepare you for the feeling of complete devastation that comes after learning the one you loved, the one you let into your life, into the most intimate places, and even sometimes the one you had children with, has betrayed you? I know that when it happened for me, I felt shocked, deeply hurt, enraged, and like my heart was smashed into a million pieces. I can only imagine you must be feeling the very same way. And I also imagine that you're asking yourself questions like, why? Why did this happen? Why did he do this? Why me? So if you have been suffering for days, weeks, months, or even years, you are in the right place if you're ready to heal. So I want to talk about what you're going to learn in this webinar tonight. 4 things in particular. One is how to start to let go of the really intense negative feelings like I mentioned above, like the anger, the rage, the fear, the deep, deep sadness. Number 2 is why time alone, time just by itself, doesn't heal you and what actually does. Number 3 is the question you need to stop asking yourself if you really want to start healing and move beyond the pain, and what to replace that question with. And lastly, how you can go from just helpful information to a lasting transformation. So I'm going to teach you as much as I can in the limited time we have together, and then I promise to show you how later in the webinar you can further your learning and your healing. I'm going to be offering, for those of you who stay until the end, I hope you want to stay to the end anyway because it's nonstop valuable information. But for those of you who stay with me till the end, only available for people on this webinar tonight is a very special bonus that's worth over $300,000. Actually, it's probably worth in the long term of your life over $300,000, but it's worth, and people actually pay for currently today over $300. I'm giving that away to you free, and it's something that will massively support you on your healing journey. So a little bit about me. I was happily married, pretty happily married anyway, not a lot of issues, got along very well, had a lot of joy in a relationship that was faithful for almost 20 years. I was just getting ready to leave for a book tour for my first parenting book that was titled Buddha Never Raised Kids and Jesus Didn't Drive Carpool. My publisher was going to send me on a 19-city speaking tour. And just a few weeks before all that was to begin, I found out that my husband had an affair. As I mentioned, I was completely shocked. Again, because we had a pretty good relationship. It's not like a lot of people who come to me and clients I work with will sit down and one of the first things they say is, we've been having problems. We've been going to marriage therapy. We had issues. We had issues from the start. It wasn't like that for me. It wasn't perfect, and looking back, I can see things were missing. But it was a good marriage, and so I was very shocked to find this out. I went down pretty hard. It was really a good 2 years before I started to really loosen and let go of my anger, my fear, and my hurt. It was especially challenging for me because I was a person who taught about peace, love, spirituality, using universal principles to manifest what you want in your life. And I was, in this instance and with this man, my first husband, absolutely not able for most of the time to access these truths and tools that I believed in so much. I finally got an answer as to why that was, which is something that I share in the deeper work that I do with people, and it really set me free. But I want to tell you what happened to me. At the time when my husband moved out, which was only a few months after the affair, I faced one of the most devastating challenges of the whole ordeal, and that was losing my children half-time. And I remember that he would come pick them up for the week. We sort of had them every other week roughly at that time, and I would just get into bed. And I'd be in bed 16 hours a day. I had never been depressed before in my life, and I didn't even understand that I was depressed. I'm certain that I was now. Until about 3 months into it, I reached down and felt my hip and realized I was developing bed sores. Yeah, I had been in bed so much that I had developed the beginning of bed sores. Well, that scared me out of bed and up, but I don't want you to have to be scared to get up and get on with your life. And you don't have to be if you understand the principles that really do work to heal you. So let me talk to you about who this webinar tonight is for. This is for you if you are suffering from the pain of your partner's affair. Again, no matter how long it's been. This is for you if you want to save your relationship. This is also for you if you don't want to save your relationship, and even if it's already over and you've moved on. This is for you if you are in that really challenging middle ground of trying to decide whether to stay or go. Or even worse yet, you're waiting for them to decide. This is for you, most importantly, if you really want to heal. You don't even have to fully believe that you can heal. I'm holding that vision for you because I did it and I know that you can too. So whether you want your relationship to survive or not, or whether it does or not, your best move is to save yourself first. We have the very best chance at saving our relationship when we're healed and whole. We have the very best chance at moving on in a healthy way when we are healed and whole. And that's what this work is all about. And my work is really different than I started teaching this work because when I went online, now this is 15 years ago now for me. 15 years ago. Almost everything online, 90 to 95% was about how to save your marriage. And I think that's great. And, but some of us don't have a choice. Some of us, the guy leaves with the secretary. Some of us decide to leave the marriage. And so there we are. And I found virtually nothing out there for people to focus on themselves first, which is really, again, is the only way to save your relationship and have it actually get better, is to start with you. Sure, you can go to couples therapy and do that, but you've got to make yourself better. You've got to make yourself stronger. You've got to learn the lessons and do the deep inner work to heal if you want to save your relationship. I'm all for that. I work with couples who absolutely want to save their marriage. I work mostly with women whose relationships seem to be ending, or they end up ending in the time that we work together. So I'm passionate about saving you, and I decided to come forward and do this work because honestly, for 7 years, I kept waiting for someone to create this body of work, and I still don't see it out there. I love that so many people have books to help people save their marriages. I think that's wonderful. But this is really all about you. So, and really much more quickly than just waiting for time to heal us, which is what this particular webinar is all about. It's really about what you do with the time. And I'm going to give you, this is not some overview tonight. We're going to take a deep dive into one of the principles that I teach and help people learn. So, let's talk about our topic tonight is about what will heal you. And I want to talk to you and really give you a really good tool that you can start using right away to make yourself feel better. Now, it's one of about 15 different tools that I teach, but it's a really important one and a really great place to start your healing. So before I get into that, I want to talk to you about the logistics about how to join me on this webinar. What you can see there on your screen is a little button that says chat. So I want to invite you to submit your questions. I will answer them as quickly as I can. I'd like you to submit your questions. I'd like you to submit your anything you need clarification on if I say something that doesn't quite make sense to you, because your participation makes this richer for everyone. So I do absolutely invite your participation. So how to do that? If you would like to remain anonymous, you will want to, after you click chat, choose the option that says all panelists. That's not very intuitive because that goes to only me. I'm the panelist and I'm the only panelist. So if you want only me to see your question and not for your name to show up, send it just to me. If you want to be interactive so that other people on this webinar, and we have a nice big group tonight, can see what you're asking, choose all panelists and everyone. Then I will see it and everyone else. And I will verbally answer your questions for you rather than type them back. So you type them up, I'll answer them. So I want to just give you an opportunity right now you're on this call tonight. What would you like to learn? Would anyone like to step forward and share? Just say hello and share what's your intention, what you hope to learn. It's so good, even if you don't share that right now, to get clear yourself. Whenever I'm in a coaching session with someone, the first thing we do is set an intention for something they want to shift by the end of our session. We obviously can't save your relationship by the end of the session, completely change your whole childhood dynamics and relationship patterns, but we can make meaningful shifts. So I want you to give yourself the opportunity to at least share with yourself, and if you want to share with any of the rest of us, what's your intention for tonight? What do you hope to get out of it? What's one thing you'd like to shift? Hi. When will the sadness end? I never have really been mad or bitter, just sad. Okay, that's a great question. As you know, I have been through this before, it seems. Okay, so everyone can see this. It seems that more women are here. Why is that? Is it because more men cheat? I don't know about, the statistics are high. I don't know that more men cheat than ever before. I think that it's harder to not be caught. But depending on the research you look at, Dr. Shirley Glass was really one of the forerunners in research on healing from affairs, and she says between 60 and 80% of men in a committed marriage, will cheat at least one time, and it's 40 to 60 for women. Her numbers are the highest I've seen, but it's around 20 to 50 depending on the researcher. It's high, unfortunately, it's high. But I want to talk less about statistics and more about you tonight. When will the sadness end? One of the answers to that, Ray, and thank you, that's a great question, is when we process it. When we process it. I want you to think about this. I remember a time when I moved, as part of my life changes that happened after my first marriage ended and moving to Santa Monica. I arrived with it was actually over 100 boxes in a small apartment, so from a really big house to a tiny apartment, and they were stacked so high that I could only have just a pathway, barely a pathway through my living room to get to the bathroom, the kitchen, and the bedrooms. And I was very, very busy at that time and didn't have a lot of time to unpack my boxes. And it became absolutely overwhelming after about a week of living that way, where I was only able to maybe unpack one box a night. And what I finally did was I processed the boxes by taking it down, unpacking the box, and putting the things away. So our feelings are sort of the same way. If we just sort of have them there and happening, it's really difficult to move through them. But I'm going to show you the beginnings of some of the ways to process your feelings tonight, just the beginning. Hello, Vicky. I need tools to heal my negative emotions. I'm still feeling anger and want to be able to love and trust again. I totally hear you on that. I'm so angry and devastated. He gets mad and we fight all the time. He stonewalls and lies. The lying continues. Ugh. Wonder what you're doing to take care of yourself during that lying. I can't stop picturing her with the guy she was having the affair with. Yeah, that's a tough one. Some of the work that I teach about taking the deeper dive to process the feelings do really help with that. And I'll give you, because a lot of you are talking about these really, really strong feelings. I'm going to give you not only the work I had tonight, but a little bit extra toward the end regarding all this. And thank you all so much for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing. And please keep the questions coming. I will address them. And some of these I'll address later as I'm giving you the information. Okay. As you will see. All right. Thank you again for that, for your participation. So let's talk about, if you have the handout, you don't need it, but if you have the handout, pull it out at this time. And it's, the 4 steps to changing a limiting belief. And let's talk about this. What is a limiting belief and why would we want to change it? And what in the world does it have to do, this kind of idea about limiting beliefs, what does that even have to do with all my emotions? Well, I want to link it up for you. Limiting beliefs are the thoughts and or stories that you tell yourself that, in short, limit you. Limiting beliefs impact the choices that you make and how you behave in any given situation. And until we uncover our limiting beliefs, we often feel powerless to make choices, and especially good choices, because we limit our own possibilities with our beliefs. Most of the time also, limiting beliefs are false. They limit our potential. They create fear or reluctance. They hold us back as individuals and partners in relationships. I don't know if you've seen just very recently floating around, I know on Facebook and the internet has been this beautiful, beautiful talk at this beautiful Mexican girl, American citizen now, but moved from Mexico when she was 12 into the United States, and she became the valedictorian of her school, I believe it's in Texas, with a 4.5 GPA, and she shares a very impassioned talk about how she came to believe in herself, and specifically believed that applying herself to get a great education would make a huge difference in her life. Now, she came from very challenging situations, an abusive and alcoholic father who disappeared, a single mother with several children. It would be very easy in her circumstance to have the limiting belief, well, I'm underprivileged. I'm probably not going to go anywhere. Just let me skate through high school. So really she got to where she is because of what she chose to believe. And I don't know how she did it, but somehow she developed an extremely positive and motivating belief. If I apply myself and get a good education, it will make my life better here in this country. Clearly that's happening. I believe she has a scholarship to either Harvard or Yale. Pardon me, but it's definitely one of those. So you go. But that's the power of a limiting belief. If she'd come into this country and said, well, won't even make a difference anyway. I'm an immigrant. English is my second language. You know, and I'm sure you've seen people who've chosen that path in all kinds of different circumstances. But boy, is having your partner cheat on you ever a great fodder for you to come up with limiting beliefs. And I'll share with you in a little bit about that. Someone else is sharing multiple affairs over the course of 7-year marriage. Never had any idea. I'm sorry. Mostly I feel it's done, but I haven't stopped loving. Do people with that kind of history really change? How will you know which way to go? Great question. There are really some things you can do to know which way to go. And again, I'm going to try to address all these when I go into the 7 steps. So I will keep all your questions up here and go. I'll come back to your questions as I go through the 7 steps for how to heal from the affair in a few minutes here. So the kind of limiting beliefs that I came up with, you know, I had pretty high self-esteem before my husband had an affair. I mean, look, we all have issues and we all carry unresolved childhood issues. We all do, except for that 4% who apparently are running around the world from functional really happy, healthy families. The rest of the 96% of us have some degree of childhood issue. But generally speaking, I thought well of myself. I felt good about myself. But the minute that I found out about the affair, in rushed the limiting beliefs. And tell me if you recognize some of these. One of mine was, I'm too old. My husband did this because I'm too old. Now, my husband, like many, chose someone 10 years younger. It's not often that they go the other direction in my experience, sometimes, but I'm too old. I'm unlovable. I'm unlovable. I'm not desirable. And then that all kind of over time rolled into like, you know what, no one's ever going to love me. When I realized the relationship was going to end, ouch, ouch, and ouch. But I've had people, I've had women come and sit with me who were, well, actually, I'll tell you the story of one. I changed their names, but they've given me the permission to give their story. So step number one, we want to uncover these limiting beliefs. I just shared with you some of mine. So step one for changing it, what goes in the first blank there is you want to uncover your limiting belief. And I really like the power of writing it down. That's why I've given you a handout. There's something magical about taking pen to paper and getting this out so you can see it and uncover it. So I've written mine down here, and I wrote down just a couple. I'm too old. I'm unlovable. I'm not desirable. No one will ever love me. Very limiting. Now, if I really walk around the whole rest of my life with that set of beliefs, do you think I have a chance of having a good relationship or really deeply healing? Not much. Well, I want to share with you about one of my clients. I'm going to call her Angel, 32 years old. Her husband had been having multiple affairs they'd been married 10 years. And she came into to sit across from me, and understandably, she kind of just like one of the first sessions that we had, she just hunched over like almost in a fetal type position, which is how that kind of pain can make us feel. And I asked her what she was feeling. And she said, I feel sad. I feel depressed. I feel worthless. And I said to her, what are you thinking that about yourself that you think might be contributing to that? And she said, well, I'm ugly. I'm boring. I'm a stick in the mud. No one's ever going to love me. I get the same kind of limiting beliefs over and over again. And I love this. This is the one she said, I'm ugly. Consider her profession. She was a model. That was her profession. She was paid for her beauty. But that's what affairs can do to us. I'm sure you can understand. So what I want to point out about the power of limiting beliefs and what in the world they have to do with emotions is this. Almost all the time, 98+% of the time, you get upset. It's because the thought that you had right before was something very negative. And I would call that a limiting belief. So a lot of the work I do with people is to change and up-level those limiting beliefs. Now, it's not like that can happen quickly, but it absolutely can happen over time. But we want to, before we can even start to work with them, we want to uncover what they are by getting clear, especially whenever you have strong emotions. What am I thinking about myself? What are the thoughts I have about myself regarding my partner's affair? And I want you to write those down on the handout if you can. I know some of you are on the phone driving. By the way, if you're on the phone, you'll be muted throughout. There's not an option to chat if you're on the phone, but you at least get to hear. So then step number 2, let's start to really work with this. You want to write down and then challenge your belief. Step number 2, challenge your belief. And here's what I mean by that. I want you to really ask yourself, and I'm going to give you a specific way to do that if it's true. Now let me check in to see if you guys have questions before I go forward. I think forgiveness is important. Should I tell the parties that I forgive them? Pat, thank you for that. Not until you've done some inner work. Okay. And I'm going to go into forgiveness a little bit tonight. So thank you for that great, great question. Just see here. 22 years of relationship, 18 married, every year infested with multiple affairs, pornography, treason, and betrayal. How can I ever trust again? Well, I don't know that you'd want to trust that person again unless they do some really deep healing work. But what I can help you with is how to trust yourself again. Because there's usually a part of us that we are denying, not listening to, and railroading over when we move forward in a relationship like that. That's the part I can help you with. So, we can't always trust certain people again. So certain people aren't worthy of our trust. We want to, as gently and gracefully as possible, let that person go if they're showing up and absolutely 100% committed to changing, learning and growing, healing their patterns, maybe getting in a 12-step group, healing an addiction, stuff like that. That's a different story. But if they're not, how do you learn to trust again? That's what I love to help people with. I too I've had that experience. I'm now divorced after a 50-year marriage. I'm doing much better, but still have a lot of anger. Someone a year younger than your oldest child. Yeah. Your husband had the ouch with someone a year younger than your oldest child. Ouch. Forgiveness. Let the parties know that I forgive them. Yeah, we're going to talk about forgiveness. Stay tuned on that one. How can he say he always loved me the entire time when he was bad-mouthing me, having sex with me? He loved her. Okay. Sometimes, sometimes when men are having or women are having an affair, it's not because they don't love you. Like in my case, I don't think that my husband didn't love me. I think he had his own deeper issues that drove it. That's a really short answer, but it's not like it's black or white. It does not necessarily mean that they don't love you. But what I want to see, if you want to stay in a relationship, what I want for you is for you to have the self-esteem to demand, to set a boundary. It's not like we want to come in with angry demands. Okay, so I didn't like that word. To set a boundary about what we need from them, while committing to what we're going to do ourselves to heal. It's alarming how much my soon-to-be ex-husband lies. He continued to lie for 2 years in really big ways. 2 of my children are done with his lying, and the other one has decided to live with him after being so angry with him for 2 years. He is manipulating her so much with freedom and gifts. She won't talk to me at all. I want revenge, and I want him to suffer for hurting my family so much. This wants to keep me in the suffering. Let's get you out of the suffering. Does the limiting belief have to be about yourself? That's a great question. What's your limiting belief about? What is your limiting belief about? Andrea, I think I sent you a link that didn't have the handout. I apologize. It's not necessary that you have it to follow along, and I will get it to you. 20 years married, Amy, 3 children. He had a 2-year affair with his business partner, was a friend of mine. We actually had our family spend time together during this time. She and I had girls' nights, totally trusted her. I feel like some of the limiting beliefs come from things he has said when he has compared the 2 relationships or said things about my abilities or my personality. See, that is about you. So the really damaging limiting beliefs are about ourselves. So those are the ones we're going to work on tonight. Other limiting beliefs that we can have are limiting beliefs about relationships. Here's a limiting belief that I had for far too long. All men are going to cheat. All men are going to lie. That's not true. I personally know many men who don't do that. So to sort of throw all men into that one category, or all women, maybe it's your wife for you, that's a limiting belief about the world, and about relationships. And that will keep you from having a really great relationship, right? If you really believe that deep down, you're going to be with someone and then you're going to think, well, it's just inevitable. They're just going to cheat. Okay. So there's a limiting belief about something other than yourself. Thank you. You confirm that he does love me in his own way, not my way. Yes. Yes, you're welcome. I mean, it's just like as angry as I was at my former husband, love is really hard to kill. I think love's impossible to kill. I think our love can change. Like one thing I did through doing my healing work, not before, after and as a result of the healing work, some of which I'm going to share with you tonight, I do still have love for my former husband, but I love him like my brother. It's that kind of love, and it's not really, really close. I don't see him a lot. We're not in each other's lives because our children are grown. But yeah, it's like, don't try to kill the love. It doesn't work. Love is a very fierce, but you can morph it. You can start to have, over time, if you're going to move away and not be in your relationship, you can have love for your husband or former husband in a way that's distant. With that, don't try to pull away. Thanks, you guys. Wow, for your interactions. This is great. He said, it wasn't my looks, that I gave a beautiful face, although I'm overweight, and my sex was amazing. He said, me who I am. He liked me as a friend, but didn't feel loved by me, but by his girlfriend who really cares and loves him. The concern is I feel unfixable. How do you fix personality? It feels futile. By the way, it was a 5-year relationship. I know has issues and is narcissistic, but who will accept my physical infirmities as he did? My sense of humor. I don't have the handout. Thanks. I don't know who you are. That's very bold of you to share all of that. By the way, I want all of you to hear me right now, whether it's your age or your weight. Let's just leave it at that's the short list. Someone, if you want, and when you're ready, someone out there is going to love you exactly the way you are. Your personality, the things you like, the goofy laugh that you have, the scars from your double C-sections, everything. If you do the work, you clear the path for someone to love you, please hear me, exactly as you are, not 10 pounds lighter from how you are, not after you get work done on your face. Please hear me. That's a limiting belief. That's a limiting belief that there's not someone out there who will love you exactly the way you are today or whatever, maybe in a year or 6 months when you're ready to look for a relationship. For some of you, it's nauseating, I know, to even think about relationship right now. So now I bet you can't completely believe me as I say that. And I understand because I didn't. It took me a while and it took the work. And that's what this is all about. Thank you all so much. Your questions are so rich and so engaging. And they're going to really help me make the information I'm going to share with you come more alive, as you will see. So write down and challenge your limiting beliefs. Does anyone want to share with me, just in a 1-sentence format, what some of your limiting beliefs are that came up for you and specifically because of the affair? It was hard when there's a 26-year difference. Right. Fear of being alone. Okay. So if that were a limiting belief, the belief would be, I'm going to be alone. Okay. Just to, if you were to write that down and put it in a limiting belief format. Thank you, Ray, for that. I'm not complicated enough. I'm too naive. I'm not relationship worthy. Oh, that's a big one. That's one that with the people I work with, we almost always get to that one eventually. I'm not worthy of a relationship. It's not true. Just as it's not true that I was too old. It's not true that I was unlovable, that I'm not desirable. I'll never know what it's like to be loved. No. I really want that for you. And if it gives you any hope, I never felt really deeply, truly loved and seen and appreciated for who I really was until I was in my 50s, beautiful people. And then I married that man last year, my current husband, Paul. And this relationship is way, it just blows out of the water any relationship I've ever had, directly because of the healing work I've done. I'm afraid to attract another sex addict. Okay, so some of you know you've got a sex addict. To not have the antennas out to know that I'm being deceived again. That's a reasonable fear, and there are things you can do. There are things you can do to make yourself stronger so that you don't. It's the same with women who attract men who are abusive. When they do the inner work, they put out a vibe that says no one's ever going to touch me again. But they have to do the inner work. He says, I lost too much weight. Oh my goodness, after 125 pounds, I gained 25. See, can we win? I'm too thin. I weigh too much. So it's like your right person's going to love you exactly the way you are. Okay. So now that we've got some of these limiting beliefs out, let's challenge them. And here's what I mean by that. I want you to imagine your very best friend, the person you're the closest to, in the world. Maybe you have multiple, but just pick one right now. So just get a picture of that person in your mind. Okay. And, for me, my very best friend left the planet, my very best girlfriend, but her name was Winnie. And I want you to do this exercise. I want you to picture your best friend saying to you the things you've written down here in the column of limiting beliefs. I want you to would your best friend say these things to you? Now, if so, may I gently suggest you might want a different new best friend. But if you have a really great best friend who believes in you, would they say, you're too old, you're overweight, you're really boring, you're probably going to be alone for the rest of your life, no one's probably ever going to love you, you're probably only ever going to pick addicts, you're just only going to be stuck with that kind of man if you want a relationship. Oh, ouch, ouch, ouch. Deflect, deflect, deflect. Okay. Now, if you've got a good best friend like I did, she wouldn't say that to you, or he wouldn't say that to you, right? So I'd like you to do now step 3, which is to update your limiting belief. So in that column, even if you don't fully believe it, and you probably don't fully believe it right now, that's okay. Go ahead and write down your updated belief. What does your friend believe about you? Because I'll tell you, for me, this is how my friend would talk to me. She'd say, you are beautiful just as you are. You are not boring to me. I don't even know what that's about, because I love your mind. I love your sense of humor. I think you're extremely lovable. You deserve to be deeply loved, cherished, and adored. In fact, she would say that to me. She would say, you deserve to be adored. And happily, I was able to attract that. He was your best friend. Okay, sometimes that's the case. But then you can use you'll use my friend who's an angel, Winnie. You use my friend. But you get the idea. He was your best friend. I am worth loving. Right. And so, again, I know you're not completely ready to buy into these 100% just yet, but I want you to try on the self-talk of reading down the column of the updated belief. Okay? So that kind of self-talk says, you're beautiful just the way you are. You are lovable. You are desirable. You are fun. You are interesting. You are going to have the relationship that you want. You are going to change your patterns and attract a man who's healthy and can give you true intimacy. So when we think these limiting beliefs, we get upset. When we think and talk to ourselves in this is what affirmations are all about. But affirmations alone are not enough. I think some of you have tried affirmations. Affirmations are great. They need to go with a few other action steps. But these updated beliefs are a sort of a positive affirmation, and you can start to talk to yourself this way, even if you don't fully buy into it yet. I'm inviting you as your homework to start to talk to yourself this way. So here Here's a fun thing that I do, with a lot of my clients. They come in and they have their little smartphones, right? And so if you've got a smartphone and you can do it, I'd like you to go right now to plug in a reminder with one of your updated beliefs. If not, promise me you'll do it after this webinar is over. So I want you to just plug it in. I am fun. I want you to say it in the I word so you can repeat it. Don't say it in the you. Say, I am beautiful. I am fun. I am desirable. I am lovable. And have that pop up every day at the same time for you. It's one small thing you can do. And it starts to, when you feel upset, so your opportunity is next time you get triggered and you get upset. Notice, what was I thinking right before I had this rush of all these negative feelings? What was I thinking? And notice if you can spot one of your limiting beliefs and insert one of your updated beliefs. And if you want to just keep it really simple, just say, I'm lovable. Just keep it at one thing. You don't have to worry about, what did I write down in that handout? Just start to say that to yourself when you get upset, when you notice that the negative limiting beliefs have come in. The power of these limiting beliefs, I want to really share one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite authors, Byron Katie, really speaks to the power of limiting beliefs when she said, I discovered that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered. But when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And that this is true for every human being. Freedom is as simple as that. I found that suffering is optional. I'm just going to read that again. I love it so much, and it's so true, and it points us to the road to real lasting healing, that being changing our thoughts. I discovered that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered, but that when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And that this is true for every human being. Freedom is as simple as that. I found that suffering is optional. You have total control today. Well, you don't have control over a lot. I know you can feel very out of control, but the one thing you do have total control over today is how you're talking to yourself. Please start talking sweetly. And the final step in the 4 steps to changing a limiting belief is to get support. Get support. It turns out that researchers have discovered the formula for creating change that really sticks and lasts. And whether you want to get fit, stop smoking, become a better parent, heal from the affair, the ingredients for making change stick are all the same. Fast Company journalist Alan Deutschman wrote a book called Change or Die, where he followed people who had to change or they would die because they had serious heart conditions. And he really studied and named the 3 critical keys that make change stick and last in our lives. And he called this set the 3 R's. They are relate, repeat, and reframe. And he shares that all 3 R's must be present for people to make a lasting change. Not just 1, not 2, but all 3. And here they are. Number 1 is you have to have someone you relate to. You've got to find a mentor, someone who's been where you are, healed themselves, and is now experiencing life in the way you would like to. For example, they're staying fit, they're managing their finances, they're being a good parent. And you need to form a relationship with your mentor. That mentor can be a community, like a 12-step group, or a person, or a couple of people, but you've got to have them. And they've got to hold the vision for you. They've got to sustain your hope. And very important, that mentor has to believe you have the ability to change. And they must possess specific methods and strategies for creating the results that you want. Now, this is one of the ways that I find I did not find in working with the therapists I worked with. I worked with 4 different therapists. I think one in particular of those 4 therapists was great, but when it came to affairs, she had not been where I was, and didn't have the tools that were very, very specific to healing from what I was going through. None of the 4 did to help me. And so you've got to have the first R to make the lasting change relate. Number 2 is repeat. This one's easy. To create permanent change, you need to rely on your new mentoring relationship to help you learn and practice and master your new habits and skills that you need to create the results you want. So you've got to do it over and over and over again. And number 3, reframe, which is a little bit what we're doing today with the limiting beliefs. You need to allow your new relationship to help you learn a new way of thinking about your life and your situation. And your mentor will have to work with you to help you change formerly limiting beliefs about yourself. So you need those 3 R's to change. You've got to find someone you can relate to, believes in you and has the tools. You've got to repeat. You've got to do this over and over, and you've got to reframe your limiting beliefs. Someone's got to really get in there and help you change that. Okay, so these are the steps that you need to take to create lasting change. And in a little bit, I'm going to give you a tool and a couple of opportunities that meet all that criteria, all the 3 R's that will help you change. So let's first go to one of the promises I mentioned at the beginning tonight, which is, I'm jumping ahead. I'm not gonna do that right now. I'm gonna stay tuned for that later. I'm gonna talk about the question you want to stop asking yourself. But first before I get into that, I want to talk about what's on the second page of your handout. The 7 steps, what it takes to heal from the affair. These are steps I developed after years of coaching other people, and also after attending the program that I found that helped me create the big shift inside of myself. I'll share in a couple minutes about what that program was, but this is what I have found that really is what you need in order to have lasting change, to heal, to take the learnings, to grow, to make good choices about your future relationships, in short, to be happy. Let me pause and check in with the questions right now before I dive into those 7 things. I don't have a handout. Okay. You don't need a handout. Let me just hold it up. I'll just show it's just really simple here. The 7 steps to healing from an affair. So I'm going to speak all of these that are here on the handout. So you don't have to have it. It's just nice to have to fill in and go along. But I will tell you everything that's on the handout. And if you want to email me, I will absolutely get you the handout. I'll send you one with all of the answers written into it. Amy is asking that. You are worth loving. Yes. Great. This is beautiful. Thank you. It's my extreme pleasure to help you. This profession chose me. I didn't choose it. What happened is I lived in a very small town in Colorado. Some of you on this call I happen to know are from my little valley, the Roaring Fork Valley. And I was a parenting coach at the time. I've been a parenting coach, author, and speaker for over 25 years this year. And, but someone in my little town, because it's small, found out what I had gone through and said, could you please coach me? My husband's had an affair. And I said, oh gosh, I don't think so. I'm like 6 months into this. I don't know if I'll be helpful. And she begged me. I said, okay, look, you can come work with me, but, under the idea that either of us can cut it off at any time. And, sometimes I would cry, she would cry, we'd hug each other. I felt like I was half a step ahead of her. And then what happened is another person found out and another. And so I've become an accidental, affair coach, because Spirit and the universe chose me to do this. So, I love it. It's very rewarding. I see people make very dramatic changes and leverage this really awful pain for a huge transformation. And it's the transformation part is the really exciting part for me. So here are the 7 steps. The first step, what goes in that first blank is to see, S-E-E, to see from your soul's perspective. Now, what does that mean? I'll tell you where I learned about this. As I was still only a year after my husband's affair, before I was even on a really meaningful path of healing, I enrolled in a program to receive my master's degree in spiritual psychology. And in that program is where I heard something that was slightly different than I had heard. I had been immersed in New Thought, and studying law of attraction for many, many years before The Secret came out, And, but this gave me a little bit new perspective to see from your soul's perspective. I had the belief that everything happens for a reason. I really did believe that. But that belief alone did not bring me tremendous peace of mind. But when I went to study for my master's program, I heard something that was similar to that, but had a different level of depth and meaning that really did start to change things up for me. And that's this idea to see from your soul's perspective. There's a perspective from which we can view our situation that can bring us really authentic peace of mind and release us from the suffering. That new perspective starts by understanding that we have sort of two separate things happening within us. Our ego, or our personality, that has its own set of wants, needs, and desires. It wants the Corvette. I wanted the Corvette since I was in 7th grade. And, you know, a hot body and abs, and I don't know, that's not on my list, but these are kind of ego needs, and a nice house, a good job, those are all great, nothing wrong with that. But we have another aspect to us, and that is our soul. And the things our soul wants and needs can be at direct opposition with that of our ego. Our soul's primary desire is to learn and to grow, to evolve. Our ego wants to stay safe and comfortable, and our ego really loves to stay right. And the ego is often very afraid of change and growth. So I know it's radical, and it can take some time, intention, and patience to adopt this higher point of view, but the payoff is significant. When we become even the tiniest bit willing to look at our situation, this very challenging situation, through the eyes of the soul, we start to feel more peace. We can start to understand from a spiritual perspective, from a soul perspective, why this might be happening. So this step does accept that we believe there is a spiritual reason that this happened, that there's something that our soul wanted. It requires a belief that the universe, God, all-knowing, whatever you call it, is neither random nor unkind, but has our back at all times. And when I started to be able to look, it took some time. It's not like they introduced it and I bought it. But when I started to be able to say, yeah, I can see that from a soul perspective, if I'm looking through these lenses over here of ego, it's like my ego says, this is bad, this is awful, this should have never happened, they are awful, I am not desirable, I'm not lovable, all that's ego. And the soul says, an opportunity to really grow in your compassion, in your to heal old wounds, to create a new life, to be more loving, especially toward yourself, starts to make a little more sense than it did for me just saying, well, everything happens for a reason. It's meant to be. Yeah, but it's meant to be. I found Ida saying it's meant to be was not all that comforting after a while. It's meant to be, and everything happens for a reason sort of was helpful for me when things would happen like, I'm bumped from my flight. It's like, well, it must be meant to be. But boy, when this one came, that one didn't give me peace. I don't know about you. There's too much space over your head. Tilt the camera down. You've got it. Okay. Is that better? Thank you. Welcome all. Okay, great. I'll keep going. So that step 1 is the lens that we look through the whole situation through, and that lens can help us feel more peaceful. Okay, step 2. is to feel, is what goes in the word, F-E-E-L, feel. Feel and move through your feelings. What do I mean by that? Well, with all the therapists I blew through, 4 of them, I talked about my feelings. That did bring me some relief. I don't want to bash that. I think it can be helpful. But I found that talking, while helpful, was just only one small part of my healing puzzle. When I added body-centered practices, like a specific yoga poses, dancing, moving my body, breath work, my healing really took off. Think about this. Our feelings are experienced in our body. They are felt in our body, right? We don't feel them in our head. And so it's extremely powerful to release them by using our body. And so I love to share practices. This is the part of when I'm teaching people this part, I get the most emails from, I get the most positive feedback. I get the most people saying, I tried that and it really worked. So you can literally learn practices, things you can do with your body to quite literally help you move through the feelings. Now, most of us get stuck in 2 different unhelpful way of dealing with feelings, and I call that spewing at one extreme of the continuum and stuffing at the other extreme. And it's totally understandable that we would spew. I did that. I had a few friends that I just dumped on, and my poor mother nonstop when I was in my upset and pain. And then other times I would stuff. I would shut down my feelings. Some of you find that you're spewers like me. You spew a lot and don't stuff very much. Or some of you stuff and hardly ever spew. That's not helpful. You don't want that. And some of you bounce back and forth between the 2 like I did. Those are not helpful. You need some other ways to deal with your feelings. And that's what step 2 is all about. And so many of you have shared, how do I deal with my anger? How do I deal? So I have time. I want to give you one skill right now. The one that's the simplest and sometimes most transformative, quite honestly. I began teaching this years ago when I taught my parenting classes, because and I employed it when I would get really triggered with my kids. So you get really emotionally triggered by your anger. Some of you said your sadness. In 30 seconds, you can do something in 30 seconds that calms your body down. So one of my big triggers when I was parenting my kids when they were very young, toddler age, is when they would fight. Like when one kid I absolutely love and adore more than anything is beating up or yelling or otherwise hurting another child, another human that I love more than anything on the planet, that to me was extremely upsetting. And I would sometimes come to their fights with all my anger and be like, stop it right now. You get over there. Everybody be quiet. And guess what happened? I made it worse. So I thought, I've got to find a way to calm myself down. So it worked so well for me that I started incorporating it in my parenting classes. And it worked so well for all my parents that I resurrected the skill for myself to go through the upsetting emotions of my husband's affair. So here's how you do deep breathing. Just really, really simple. Put one hand on your diaphragm and one on your lungs. When we are stressed out, when humans are stressed out, you start to breathe very shallow, short breaths up here in your upper lungs. When we are relaxed, we take deep diaphragmatic breaths. So I want you to first let all the air out, because most people can't. If you do yoga and you work with breathing, great, this will be easy. But for some people, this is very new. I want you to blow all the air out of your diaphragm and your lungs right now. Blow it out even more, all more, and then inhale into your diaphragm. Low down in your belly and then your chest. And exhale. That should take about 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out. And let's just do it together. Let's do another time. Just feel your diaphragm and your chest and let it all go. Trick is letting all the air out. So you create a negative space and then fill it up again and let it all go. Now close your eyes for just a minute and go inside your body. You may not need to do this. Do you feel any more relaxed after doing that? Do you feel any more relaxed after doing that? Let me hear your answers. When I taught parenting classes, people would say, yeah, I feel 10% more relaxed or 50% more relaxed. Yes, very. It's yes. So that's one of many tools that I teach in the 6-week class that I'm going to be talking about here in a few minutes. Just one of many body tools ways you can use your body to calm yourself down. I know it works. I did it for years as a parent. And again, I shared it with so many parents who said, in my parenting book, I'm the only parenting book I know of out there that has a chapter on deep breathing. That's the one I hear the most from parents about. I took deep breaths. It started to change everything. So is that going to heal the whole situation? No. But when you can calm yourself down by 10% or 20%, it makes a difference. I begin to inhabit myself again. Yes. I recently started doing that and it does make me feel better. Great. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So, let's go into step 4 now. Think better thoughts is what's in step 4. Think better thoughts. In this, now I'm going to talk about the question you need to stop asking yourself. And one of you who is on this call today emailed me with this question today. You said in your email, I'll keep your anonymity, but you said, why did this happen? Why me? What did I do? So the question you need to stop asking yourself if you want to move beyond the pain is every question that starts with why. Why did this happen? Why me? And I'll tell you why. Because most of the time, those questions we can't get an answer to, and they send us into a loop of negativity, a downward spiral of negative emotions. Now, that being said, I will tell you that in the 6-week Heal from the Affair class that I'm going to share with you about in a little bit, I do give you some really meaningful answers to why, because our brain does want to understand why it happened, but I don't want you to live in that question and torment yourself with that question. And when we get into this part about question thinking, one of the big things we talk about is limiting beliefs, which I've given you some information on tonight. We want to change our thinking. We want to catch ourselves saying, I'm too old. No, you're not. I don't care how old you are. And I know I have people here in their 70s, but I know I had a 32-year-old client sit on my couch and say, I'm too old. It's all over for me now. 32, 70. No, people, my mother just came here. We celebrated her 80th birthday. All we did is talk about all the dates she had waiting for her when she went back to Idaho. 80 has got the men throwing themselves at her because she doesn't have these particular kind of limiting beliefs that a lot of us do after this happens. My mom has not ever experienced being cheated on either. So she reports anyway. So she hasn't had this negative blow, but she has a rich dating life. So no one can tell me here that you're too old. And so that's the thinking part. So we're in this number 4 is so important that we train ourselves to think better thoughts and stop asking why, because it's a question that harms. And I talk about in my class the questions that harm and the questions that heal. One of the most powerful questions that heal is, what can I learn from this? That's just one. So I'm giving you a little tiny preview. And what do you want to replace your why question with? Well, stay tuned and I'll share that with you. Step 5. Let me check your questions here. And I love all this participation. Did we do number 3? Number 3 is oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. Thank you for catching me on that. We skipped number 3. I'm going to come back. Tell your mom to call me. What the heck does she do to get dates? I'm almost 71. Ida, maybe I will. Okay? I am not opposed to that. Okay. Going backwards. So I got excited about the think question. So go backwards. Step 3 is to heal. Heal your relationship with yourself and them. Once we heal the way we hold the person who betrayed us in our consciousness. And when I say consciousness, I mean the way we think about them and the way we feel about them. Once we do this, as I did, we start to feel more peace. Down the road, we attract a far better relationship, whether you're going to stay or leave that one and maybe down the road attract another one. Using this step, you begin to design something that's similar to what I did in my master's program in spiritual psychology. I call it the relationship healing plan. It's a unique plan that you devise for yourself. It's not a one size fits all. You create for yourself that includes daily action steps to facilitate healing and show up for yourself in new, more empowering ways, aka to start to love yourself, really love yourself more. So I'll tell you what to do instead of ask why. And that is you've got to take action. So when people work with me, it's homework and it's action steps, because that's what will heal you. What you do differently every day and how you respond is what will create the healing in you. I promise. And then we create a group of us to support each other in doing it, because for a lot of us who are in relationships where a partner has betrayed us, a lot of us have been betraying ourselves even before they betrayed us, which sort of brings me to step 5, which is to reclaim your power. Reclaim your power. Boy, no matter how good we felt about ourselves before the affair, good or bad or neutral, when our lover betrays us, it feels like we've been brought to our knees. We can suddenly feel like our whole world has collapsed and we can feel completely powerless. And in this step, we really take a deep dive in the arena of how are the ways I gave away my power before the affair, or while the affair was happening, or now after it's already happened, or maybe you've been doing it all the way along. But people are surprised in what we go through in this step to learn the different ways they had been silently giving away their power, or how they're giving away their power now today. So I love this part of the work. It's some of the most freeing work that I do around healing from their affair. Step 6. Here we go. Some of you mentioned forgiveness. Anyone else have her cutting out or freezing? Oh, the video? Maybe your connection. Not me. Okay, yeah, please let me know. Mine seems to be smooth over here. Not cutting out for me. Okay, so maybe it's your connection. The great news is I'm going to be sending you all a recording link tomorrow, so you'll have that if you're missing stuff. Okay, and I find I can't listen to this information enough. When I was in my healing process, I hope you feel the same way. And step number 6, release. When forgiving seems impossible, release. I read every book I could on the topic of forgiveness. I mean, I went out and bought them all. Most of them ended up in my recycle bin because they did not have information I found practical and that really helped me feel free inside. See, if I'm going to forgive, I want to feel better after that. I want to have the gift of forgiveness come back to me and go on to them. I wanted to feel a shift. And unlike traditional forgiveness, we start in this program with self-forgiveness before we even consider forgiving another. Now, someone wrote on here, one of your questions was, should I tell him I forgive him? I would not recommend that you do that until you do some of this work around forgiving yourself and forgiving judgments that you placed on yourself. So we talked about limiting beliefs. Step 6 is where we take our limiting beliefs that were in step 4 and we take a deeper cut. In the 6-week Heal from the Affair course, we take a deeper cut into, okay, I need to forgive myself that I even buy into these beliefs, that I believe them. And once I start doing that, then I can start to work on what it takes to forgive them. It's a really different kind of forgiveness that I find to be extraordinarily powerful. And then step 7, some of my favorite part of the work I do is to find the deeper wound. Step 7, find the deeper wound. Yes, being cheated on is exceedingly painful. I think you all agree. But I, like many other people, was experiencing truly excruciating amounts of suffering. 2 years is too long. 2 years is not even a normal amount of time to grieve and let go. It was affecting, my pain was affecting every area of my life. I was unable to show up and teach my parenting classes. I canceled almost all of them for at least a year, maybe even 18 months. I could hardly coach clients. I lost a lot of weight. You don't want to do that. People joke and say like, oh, well, that's a great diet. But the way I lost weight was by being so depressed I couldn't eat properly. You don't want to do that. That's not bad for you because that shot my adrenal glands, which I'm still recovering from. 15 years later, my inability to eat properly not destroyed, but really taxed my adrenal glands. Don't do that. So why in the world was I suffering so much? And for those of you, for it's been a long time, you're in a lot of pain and you're not able to let go, and move on, it's probably because of an unhealed wound from your childhood. That's most likely what's causing you to, it's called betrayal trauma, where you had trauma from your childhood. It doesn't have to be big trauma, or it could be big trauma, but it can be the trauma of the most obvious kinds, obviously, are abuse and things like living in addictive homes. But my trauma was a little more subtle. My trauma was the trauma of what some people call benign neglect, but there's no such thing as benign neglect. And so we want to start to uncover things like, how did we attach? Was our attachment healthy? And I've had a lot of fun studying this topic of attachment. So there are 3 different ways we can attach as infants and as young children to our caregivers. 2 unhealthy and 1 healthy. The first unhealthy kind is anxious attachment. That happens when our caregivers are not there and they don't meet our needs. Now, it may be through no fault of their own. Some mothers had postpartum depression or were very sick. I've worked with several clients whose mothers died. So this is not about blaming parents, but it's about understanding that if you created an anxious attachment, you're highly likely to attract a man who's going to cheat. I'll get into that in this section. Then there are people who have avoidance styles of attaching, and those are people who were traditionally very engulfed and overcome by their parents that were too in their business, didn't have boundaries. And that person kind of is like, hands up, they don't know how to create healthy intimacy. And then a healthy attachment is people who can be intimate, can be vulnerable and show who they are, can connect with other people, can share their feelings. And so we usually find when a lot of suffering is going on, and it's been a long time, that some kind of attachment wound is not healed. And so we do some really good work around that. Okay? Word or worth. Find your deeper word or worth. That's beautiful, Andrea. Thanks. He thinks I'm going to start believing him even though he's still lying. Yeah. That section on reclaiming your power, because we can really give our power away when we're with someone who's not telling the truth. That section I would really want for you. And that section I go into really how to set boundaries around behaviors like that for yourself. And yes, you can set boundaries even when they're lying. So let's talk about let's talk about the next 6-week class, because the Heal from the Affair class is one of my favorite ways to impart these 7 things. We take approximately one of these a week and take a deep dive into how do you use your body to process your feeling, a deep dive into how to think better thoughts, how to take your power back, how to heal your relationship, how to start loving yourself. And in the first week, well, first of all, let me give you the details. The next one starts a week from tonight. August 9th, we're going to meet live just like this on Wednesday evenings from 7:30 until 9. So it's a 90-minute class. You have 6 of those sessions. In between, we have 5 live Q&A calls where you can call me. I block off an hour of my time. I get on the phone, and you can ask me any question you want about what we've learned, where you need support. So those are all included in the 6-week class. And what you're going to learn is each session, we're going to go into each of these 7 things and really take a deep dive. We're going to look at a radical new perspective on forgiveness. We're going to learn what forgiving is not. We're going to learn the specific ways we give away our power. We're going to learn and start to uncover what are some of my childhood wounds that may be slowing down my healing process. So I would love to have you commit to yourself, show up and work with me where you'll get the 3 R's. You'll get someone who's been there. I've turned this around in a big way. I walk my talk 100%, in that I have lived and done everything I ask you to do, and am living the results of an extraordinarily happy life. And so the investment is $297. That includes the 6-week class and all the Q&A sessions in between. I offer a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unhappy at any point, or you find you're not getting a ton out of it, I'll give you 100% of your money back. You truly have nothing to lose. But because you're here on this call with me, and I want to reward those of you who are courageous enough and willing to take action, because there's a lot of action and homework in between our sessions. It's a course about taking loving, healing actions for yourself. So I want to reward action. If you enroll by this time tomorrow night, within 24 hours, I'm giving you 20% off, which is $222 for the course. If you're called to sign up, how you do that is go to my website, www.healfromtheaffair.com, and there's a link that's going to be live for the next 24 hours to sign up for the class. Now, if you're thinking, Vicki, but I'm too busy and I don't have Wednesday nights available, no problem. Everything's recorded. So you can either watch the videos. Some people like to watch videos, and I'll send you a video and an audio so you can choose. I'm listening to an audio. I'm listening to the video. You will receive extensive handouts. Oh, there's my cat. Hello. He didn't like the candle. That was Duke. He's part of the Heal from the Affair team and holds a lot of healing energy. So here's the website. I put it up here, www.healfromtheaffair.com, if you are called to register. Love Duke, yeah. Then I hope you'll join us. And it's a beautiful, loving, supportive group of people doing the work together. And I want to offer you now, here in just the last 2 minutes, the bonus that I wanted to. I'm going to type this out. I'm going to send you an email address to email this to. I want to offer those of you who are on this call tonight, only if you respond today by midnight tonight, the opportunity to have a completely complimentary, deep dive, heal from the affair, breakthrough coaching session. So you get on the phone with me, or we can do a video. I love video. If you live in the Los Angeles area, you can come to my office and sit with me. Even if you don't live in the Los Angeles area, you can fly to Los Angeles and sit with me. But, so your choice, phone, video, come sit with me is my gift to you. And it's all about taking where you are and helping you make a significant shift in our 60 minutes time together. So to get that, email me and just say, Vicki, I want to do it. I'll send you the link where you can go grab a time slot from me. And it will be my deep honor to support you in moving forward. So is there a cap on attendees for my class? Yes, there is a cap. I keep it small. It's 25 maximum. At any given time, about half the people sign up because they can't, or half the people are there interacting with each other because people work. Some people are never able to join it live. So yes, so we'll have a fairly intimate group where you get to know each other, you share your questions, and I keep it, I keep it intimate. I want to connect. I want to hear your story. I want to know what's going on with you. I want to answer your questions. And then we get on the Q&A calls in between. So if you couldn't make the live event, no problem. You'll get me live every week in between our sessions. Did you give me your email address? I typed it here. Sorry. If you're on the phone, let me say it out loud. I typed it here on the chat. It's healfromtheaffair@gmail.com. That goes directly to me. healfromtheaffair@gmail.com. And I've typed it here, I typed it here in the chat box also. Any other questions? Anything you want to share before I leave you with some closing? Did not appear in the chat. Oh, wasn't that interesting? Okay, let me fix. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. I see what I did wrong here. I chose all panelists, which is just me. Thank you for sharing. So there's the website. And there's the email address. Here it comes. There you go. Okay, so can you all see it now? healfromtheaffair@gmail.com. Yes, thank you, Chris. Great. Or to register for the class, www.healfromtheaffair.com. Again, I'm going to take that link down tomorrow for the discount of $222. So if you're called, I hope you really listen inside yourself. And if you are called, I hope you'll join us. You literally have nothing to lose. I will cheerfully and immediately refund you if you're not thrilled with the class. So you have nothing to lose if you're called to this work and to work with me. I don't know anyone else out there doing this work. I waited 7 years for someone else to do it so that I could get out of it. So I could sort of get out of my contract with the universe. You are very most welcome. And I want to leave you all with a closing quote that I want you to start to make your new updated belief about yourself, or inspire you to have more updated belief. It's from the Sufi poet Hafiz. Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure, everyone. It's my deep pleasure, and I acknowledge you for showing up and taking time to invest in yourself in this way. It is not easy to face this. It's not easy to face it. Dive in, work on it, show up for a class, do coaching, and really dive into these places. But I can begin to tell you how different my life is, how much joy, the rich connection I have with my soulmate, Paul, now. So, you've given me hope. I'm really glad to hear that. It is my intention and pleasure to do that. I miss you too. Miss you too, Ray. So please keep this in mind. From the Sufi poet Hafiz, I wish I could show you, when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. I wish I could show you, when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. Good night.